Greetings, families, parents, partners, and community. Welcome to the CMSD Parent University podcast, where families, partners, and community come together for focused conversations that transform learning and leadership. I'm your host, Anthony Brown, and this is where education meets real conversation, bringing you practical tools and inspiring voices to help families stand tall as teachers, advocates, learners, and leaders. So let's level up and build brighter futures for our scholars. Now, today, we are exploring a topic that truly helps parents understand how children learn, understanding the 8 brain layers of learning. That's interesting topics. I want to learn more about this myself. Now, our guest for today is Dr. Portia L. Brown, and she is the founder of Creating Conscious Cultures. Now, she combines neuroscience, education, and leadership development to help parents and educators see learning through a whole child lens. Now, in this two-part series, Dr. Brown will walk us through 8 learning systems of the brain and how understanding these layers can help parents support their children's growth at home and at school. Now, when we return, Dr. Brown will begin part 1, focusing on the first 4 brain systems. So we'll be right back right after this message.
At Cleveland Metropolitan School District, our goal is simple: to ensure every child has access to high-quality education, equitable opportunities, and the support they need to succeed. Together, we're building a better future. Recently, CMSD made history, earning a 3-star rating on the state report card. Also, Clevelanders showed their support for CMSD by voting for a bond and levy by an overwhelming majority. Now is the time for CMSD to reimagine the student experience by enhancing learning, addressing inequities, and maximizing resources. We know that together, we can build a brighter future for Cleveland scholars. Visit clevelandmetroschools.org for more details.
When I say food is, you say medicine. Food is? Medicine. Food is? Woo! Give it up! Yay!
So what we have going on here today is a Meet the Farmer event. So we have this year partnered with 4 Cleveland growers that grow the vegetables that are on the salad bars that are in some of our schools. And the students can meet the farmer. Today we have Farmer Sarah and Farmer Jamel, and they get to meet the farmer that grows their food. They can ask them questions. We have trading cards, and the students get to try the produce items that the farmers grow, and it just encourages them to try something new, to eat fresh vegetables, and they can meet the farmer, and then they get to vote on if they like the produce item or not, and they get fun stickers, and we have what if they write on the board of what they liked about the product.
This is one of the youngest demographics that we can have an influence on, and when you're talking about school lunches, this is food that they're going to be eating daily for a majority of the year, right? And so to be able to introduce local foods on a daily basis to students within the Cleveland area is just evolutionary.
We're talking about the benefits of fresh foods and also the difference between local fresh foods and those you might get, say, at a grocery store that might have been shipped from all over the country or world to get to your plate, often picked months and months earlier and don't have the same level of nutrition or flavor. So giving them that experience of eating something that was grown locally and why that's so important and why it's so important to grow your own food.
It was kind of sour. And that was my first time ever trying that, but it had a pretty color.
I mean, I love our scholars when they just come out and just tell the truth. Like, it had a pretty color. I love it. Welcome back again, ladies and gentlemen, to the CMSD Parent University podcast. And I am joined today by our guest, Dr. Portia Brown. Good afternoon. How are you today?
Greetings, Mr. Brown. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Listen, so I am not going to get in the way. I know you have a lot of resources and content that you want to share with us. So as you begin part 1 of your presentation, understanding the 8 brain layers of learning. Listen, I need to go pull out my notebook so I can be ready as well, because I'm like, wait a minute, this sounds really interesting and I want to learn more about it as well. So without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Brown to the program.
Thank you again, and welcome to everyone who has chosen to view this particular podcast. I'm glad you have made that decision. I have decided to I'm going to take about 5 minutes, introduce you to what you're going to be experiencing, why I wanted to share it with you, and starting with just a little bit about who I am. I am a product of Cleveland schools. I am a proud graduate of Glenville High School. And throughout my career, and this is not part of what I usually do, but as far as creating conscious cultures, creating a consciousness about how students learn, and even more to the point, empowering parents. Quite often, there are conversations about students and teachers and students in schools. And what is often missing from the equation are the parents. And so I wanted to bring this to you. I, throughout my career, have had a particular capacity for spotting the gaps. Where are there some problems? And being able to resolve them or help people figure out how to resolve them. I worked in city government, and I have worked on the international level. I've been in Ethiopia. I've worked with teams in Lebanon. I've been in Jordan. I've worked with people from Iraq, and all around the world, I see the same things. I've worked with people in leadership that get in their own way because of their own struggles. And a lot of those things could have been taken care of in their K through 12 years, but no one knew how to address it. So I come to you as a professional wanting to help you prepare your child for their adult lives. I come to you also as a parent. I learned about this information when my son was in the 4th grade, and he came home one day and he said, "Mom, I'm not learning." And so since I think I'm responsible for introducing my child to success, I went about finding resources to help him. And as only God can do, the things that I needed began to show up, and I discovered this information. Everything that I'm going to give to you comes from the late pediatrician, Dr. Melvin Levine. This is not my original work. But I was watching something on PBS once, and they were discussing Dr. Levine's work, and there was a little girl, and she was sharing in school, and my son walked in the room just at that moment, and he said, "Mom, that's what's wrong with me." So I come to you as a parent. And third, I come to you in my own experience as being one who enjoyed learning. I love school, but I could also see that sometimes things just didn't flow in sync for me. So as I have learned these things in helping my own son, I have learned the reality of this is what was happening with me. I'm sharing this with you because you are your child's life coach. You are the one that is going to prepare your child for the world. Prepare your child to leave home one day. You want them to do that and to be successful in whatever career path they choose. So Dr. Melvin Levine's work, at the end of this, I'm going to show you the resources that you can use to find more information about this. Books, audiobooks, and let's see, I'm looking at my cheat sheet, make sure I've covered everything that I want to. The podcasts are going to be filled with information. So let me invite you right now to go and get pen and paper. You can pause the video, go and get pen and paper. It's going to be a lot of information. And by the time you finish, you might feel like it's a lot of puzzle pieces. But trust me, and I'll hold your hand through the whole process. You'll be able to put the pieces together, you, your child, and your child's teacher. All of you will be able to put the puzzle pieces together and figure out the best way to move your child forward. I do that because this picture is what I want you to really grasp and take away. The three-legged stool, the three parts of a student's success. Obviously, the student has to do the work. There's the school system and whatever other institutions are there to help provide health or social support systems. And then the third one is the parent or the family. And if you look at the stool, if one leg is not strong, then it collapses and the student might not reach the goals that have been set. When I ask you to get your pen and paper, let me throw in something else. Grab your child, grab the students, and bring them in. It will be a lot of information, but I'll present it in a way that they might be able to see themselves just as my son saw himself. They'll be able to understand what's going on. You can have conversations with your child afterwards to see how to pull all of this together. So with that, I'm going to begin. And these are the 8 brain layers that we're going to discuss. In part 1 today, we'll cover the attention system. You've heard of ADD, ADHD. We will discuss critical thinking or higher order thinking. We will look at the language system, and we'll talk about the memory system. In the next podcast, we'll cover the motor skills with muscles, spatial ordering, how they manage space, sequential ordering, how you keep things in chronological order, whether you can, and then social awareness. For the objectives that I want to cover with you, first, developing awareness of how your child's brain is working in the learning process. Second, recognize the traits of high functioning areas. And I want you to remember that no one has all 8 functions working at a high level. Everyone has challenges. We will just figure out where your child's are. And then the third one, I'm going to provide some descriptions of the challenges in adult life. If these things are not taken care of in the younger years, then I'll show you how they show up in the adult years, how they show up in the workplace. You want to avoid that because it can affect the success of a career path. Okay. Immediately, what I hope you notice happening is that you will be less frustrated. If you and your child have been struggling, trying to figure out what is going on, I see my child studying, but the test scores don't reflect the amount of work they put in, or whatever the area might be, you will begin to understand, this is what's going on. And now I can take a deep breath and pause and begin to approach the problem differently. You'll be able to identify exactly what areas their learning differences are occurring. You will be able to have conversations with your child and confirm, hey, I'm thinking it might be this. Are you seeing that as well? You will be able to have more in-depth conversations with the school staff, with the teachers. You'll be able to come up with some techniques that help your student get past whatever frustrations they're having in school and in learning, and then move the child to a fuller learning experience, one that's more joyful. What we will not be able to cover in these 2 podcasts our tips and tools. I don't have time to do that here now, but I do want to put you in a place where you will be able to have conversations with the parents. Long term, you'll be able to spot what your child needs for successful learning experiences as they progress through schools. You'll help your child be able to manage himself or herself. They can become their own advocate in school. They'll know what's going on, what's not working well, and be able to ask for assistance in whatever way they can. They'll be able to, they will be able to transition to life as an adult, making wise choices about what might be more suitable for them. And the conversations with the teachers as they progress through school, they'll know more about you, and they will know more about how to serve your child's needs every year. This is the slide specifically for students. They will enjoy learning more. They will get it. They will understand what this is about, why this is a problem for me, and they can have conversations with the teacher and make their experience in school better. They will understand something that's very, very important, that they are not stupid. Our children are not stupid. We just have to figure out how to reach them, and then we'll know better how to teach them. They are not lazy. They may be struggling with something and just don't know how to figure it out. They don't have the answers. Hopefully now they will begin to at least seek out answers, if not find them. They'll learn to adapt as the demands of learning change, and they do change from lower grades to upper grades in middle school and high school. The demands change, and they'll learn to ask for what they need in order to be more successful. And here we go with the very first system. Now, each of these systems has more than one level. So the big picture is the attention system, but there's a second and a third level. On the second level, there's an intake function, there's mental energy, and there's an output function. And you'll see inside the colored figures are 4 or 5 more components. So in the intake function, this is where your child or you make the proper selection, choosing what to pay attention to. Are they focusing on the right thing? When they are focusing on the right thing, do they go into detail? Do they go into depth and learning more about what it is that anyone is discussing, or do they just skim the surface and keep going? Satisfaction is being able to stick with something, learning something, even though they don't want to. It's important. They need to know it. Might not be fun, but they need to know it. Attention span. Does your child give proper amount of attention to what it is they need to be paying attention to? Can they adapt their attention span and stay on point for an appropriate amount of time? Do they have the capacity to select more than one thing to pay attention to at one time? You might need to hold this thing while you look at this over here as well. Mind activity is if they're able to connect what they're learning right now to maybe an experience that they had or something that they learned somewhere else. In the mental energy function, we start right off with sleep arousal. And everybody knows what that's about. Does your brain have enough rested time to be able to come to school and pay attention, to speak well, to think, to read? All of that energy is needed to be successful in class every single day. Does your child have the capacity to put forth the mental effort that's necessary for succeeding? Is your child consistently working at something, or do they drop it and move away? Alertness. Will your child be able to sit still and pay attention, or are they constantly fidgeting? The output is the productivity piece. Previewing. Before I start this task, let me pay attention to what I need to have. What are the resources that I need? How much time is this going to take? What are the consequences of making this decision versus that decision? How am I going to put all of these things together? What are the consequences of doing this or not doing this? All of that is previewing. Options. This function is what helps make choices about better options or other alternatives. Do they exist? Have I looked at them? Paying attention to the pace of the work. Perhaps I need to take breaks. This is going to take so long. I don't think my attention span is going to be able to contain all of this. Maybe I'll work for 20 minutes and take a break and come back. Pacing is very important in order to get the job done. Reinforcement is whether or not your student can pay attention to everything that they did when something turned out well, and then use it again the next time. Or if things didn't turn out well, will they be able to understand, I won't do that again? Quality of work. Do they pay attention to what they're turning in? Have they checked their work for neatness or correct answers? All of these go into the attention system. If the attention system is functioning at a high level, then they won't be distracted. They will focus on what they need to focus on. They will have the proper amount of energy that's needed for learning. They'll be able to pay attention to how they work and the behavior that's needed to make adjustments when adjustments are needed. And they'll be able to make decisions in the future based on what they've done in the past, whether it worked well or didn't work well. And here are some things to pay attention to as far as what happens with adults in the professional world that didn't take care of things in their younger years as far as the attention span. If they're too sleep deprived to make it through the day, that's going to be a problem. If they are not paying attention to the amount of mental energy that's needed and put in the effort, then their follow-up skills are going to be poor and people won't be able to depend on them. And who wants that person on their team? No one. They will have problems with self-pacing, and maybe they just can't handle the demands of output. We need this report on such and such a date. Will you be able to do it? Maybe not. They won't be able to adapt to changes that need to be made. They might miss cues on seeing what's important if they're not focused on the right thing. And if they're not curious enough to go deep on an issue, how do they become a subject matter expert? How do they develop any expertise? How do they become a specialist at anything if they don't go into depth, if they just keep it at a surface level? That's the jack of all trades and master of none. If they can't stick with a task, that's going to be a problem. If they are not able to see connections and link them, if they cannot endure the grind, sometimes you just have to grind, even when you don't want to, especially when you don't want to. You got to stick to it and do it. If that's a problem, not many people are going to want your child on their team, and you don't want that. If they don't know how to count the costs and consider whatever critical factors that have bearing on being successful, if they don't know how to preview that, they're going to run into problems down the road on that particular project. They have to be able to monitor the time that's needed to produce work in order to pull it off in an appropriate amount of time. If they don't hear advice or feedback, if they don't take that feedback and make changes, that'll be a problem because supervisors will see this is not a coachable person. So how do I advance that person? How do I promote that person if they don't want to learn lessons? If they don't consider options or alternatives, it's going to be difficult to move past the stuck place that they are in. And if they can't generate a finished product of value, that's definitely a non-starter for people in leadership. All right, we're going to move to the higher order thinking system. In younger years, in the early grades, things are pretty concrete. Water is wet, 1 + 1 is 2, orange is orange. But as you continue on, and this is the only brain you get, and you got to work it as you grow into it, grow up, there are other things that need to begin to spark and take off. So being able to discuss concepts and being able to problem solve, being able to think outside the box, how you show your creativity in whatever way, shape, or form that is. And also the rules. If I do this, then that happens. Sure, higher order thinking. So in the creative thinking aspect, there is a particular way that your child creates, whether it's art, drawing, writing, music, dancing. They do it their way. And whatever way works for them, they're comfortable doing it because it works for them. So accept where they are. This is their style. And this is how they're going to produce whatever it is they produce. I have never been able to draw. Other people can. That's the way they do it. The higher order thinking, the creative part, that's what allows your child to be themselves. The critical thinking part, the ability to look at information and see, is this misinformation? Is this disinformation? Is something being misrepresented here? Do they ask questions about this just to check it out? That's the critical thinking. Go beyond what is just presented, what is just thrown at them on TikTok or wherever, and ask questions. Even in books in school, ask questions, having the capacity to do that. Conceptual thinking allows them to consider things. I talked about moving from concrete to abstract. So knowing processes and being able to explain using their own words what's going on. Being able to problem solve, moving through step-by-step processes to reach a good solution, being able to think on a much higher level to pull all of that together. And then, excuse me, the rule-guided thinking, to be able to understand how to get from here to there. A lot of this is process-oriented, and you'll also hear things across systems will overlap and be connected. Nothing is done in isolation. Everything is connected. If as an adult, their higher order thinking is challenged, before we even get to this, I will give you an example. It is from the NBA. So even if people think they can be an athlete and they don't have to remember all that they learned in school, I remember reading a sports story. It was an NBA player who didn't do well in a particular game against an opponent because he studied that opponent in one dimension. He only looked at one dimension. He got beat by his opponent because he didn't look at the bigger picture of everything that goes on in a game. So how to move from the abstract to very literal ways, not knowing how to brainstorm, think outside the box, just taking everything at face value, not analyzing anything, or becoming so cynical that they don't hear, they don't listen to what's being presented. or acting impulsively without thinking logically about how they are showing up. All of these things have to do with the higher order thinking system. Here's the language system. Now, this one is complex, and I'll go through it with you to help you see the multiple levels and layers of what's involved in just communicating. There is basic language, which is, say, the lower elementary grades. And then as you get older, you will use a higher level of language that just follows. When you're in the 6th grade, you don't speak as a kindergartner, et cetera, et cetera. The expressive language is how you are able to put out what it is you want to share, whether it's in writing or whether it's in speech. The receptive language is how you take in, whether you can take it in, how you process it and understand it. The automatic and the, I'm looking at my notes, excuse me. The automatic and the literate language. Automatic is used in everyday speaking, and the literate, less casual conversations, more higher level vocabulary. And we talked about the concrete and that abstract. Now here, oh, this didn't show up well, but so sounding out words, just the sounds of words, speaking them well. And of course, when children are very small, sometimes they don't pronounce words or letters completely correctly, but most times they will grow into it. Word bits, preview, prenatal, or tricycle, triathlon, anti, or itis. Those are bits of words that come together for a language system. Understanding what words mean, how to use them in sentences. Chunking out language when you're hearing, when you're listening, or maybe when you're reading, just chunking it out so you can put it together. And then thinking about language, I'm sorry, it says thinking about how language works. Just understanding how to bring all of these things together so that you can comprehend what's being shared. Okay. So when the language system is functioning well, words are pronounced correctly. Your student will speak in complete sentences, and everything will be in order. Words are not out of order. The sequencing of the words in the sentence will be in order. They will be able to understand language well and explain what is asked of them. Each year, their vocabulary should grow. And I encourage you to keep your students in the vocabulary building mode. They'll use that particularly for expressive language, being able to pull from a pool of words in their vocabulary to speak what they need without pauses, without searching for a word. Your child may know the answer and raise their hand, but when the teacher calls on them, they have difficulty expressing what they want to say. So keep them growing their vocabulary. And finally, if it's functioning well, then they'll be able to clearly summarize something that they have seen or read. If things are not working well, then what it looks like as an adult, if your child is an adult but still has lower level vocabulary that they use in conversations, that might be problematic for moving up in their career. If your son or daughter doesn't master abstract language and they can't see big picture, Say there is a project and we need to think out 5 years, 10 years ahead, but if they can't pull those thoughts together, that could also be a challenge. If they don't pronounce words well and make repeated mistakes, then that will be embarrassing, and it's going to be hard to get promotions if that's a problem. You don't present well. If your child hasn't overcome the challenge of processing what is being spoken, then they might miss key chunks of information that's needed for an assignment or for projects. If they have not discovered the importance of continually building the vocabulary, then they might have some gaps or delays when they're listening to conversations and participating in discussions, but can't keep up. That is the language system. We'll go to the memory system. Mr. Brown, could you make the screen, could you bring the PowerPoint larger? Thank you. And keep it there. Thanks. On the memory system, so there are 3 levels in that. There's short-term memory, there's active working memory, and there's long-term memory. And just real quick, maybe it doesn't happen to you, but you can remember something that happened 2 years ago, but you don't remember what you went upstairs to get. The memory system is very, very intricate, and this is just a small picture of what's going on in the memory system. So for your child in school, the short-term memory, being able to hold on to information that they're going to use in that lesson right in that moment. Say if they're discussing something in history class, how does this particular act affect the outcome over here? Active working memory, being able to hold something in the memory while they are connecting it with other parts of the idea or the story. So holding one thing, working on that simultaneously. And the long-term memory, you learned the Heimlich maneuver, but you didn't use it for another 5 years. That's the long-term memory at work. You were able to retain that information and be able to put it into action when needed. So the long-term memory is there.
Side door.
When the memory system is functioning well, the student can remember and recall everything that they've read or seen or heard. They can recall steps to a process, how to perform those steps, how to solve the multi-steps in a math equation. If they're doing long division, maybe they remember the first part, but not the middle part. And so that is a problem for getting the actual answer. They'll understand scientific methods, and they'll be able to write proper sentences. Third, if it's functioning well, they can remember and explain past experiences that they've had. They can pull all of those things together if it's functioning well. If it's a problem still as an adult, then retaining instructions will be hard, and moving through tasks with many steps will be difficult. Writing memos and reports can be problematic if they have difficulty retaining what actually happened. Not being able to recall information could be a challenge if they're a doctor or an attorney. And here is a point that I want to make. Of course, parents have a very critical role in helping a child choose their career path. So understanding more about how their brain works and how the systems in their brain work will help you help them map out a career. Not everything is for everybody. Being able to address larger issues at hand can be a problem if your child cannot quickly recall information or processes, and that might get their projects delayed. Also problematic. So we've covered a lot in this first part. I'm just going to give you this slide so you can see exactly how much you covered, and you can go back over this video, pull out your notes, fill in some blanks. The attention system, there are 3 secondary levels, and each one of those secondary levels has something else going on. 5 in the input, 4 in the mental energy, and 5 more in the output. The higher order thinking has these 5. The language, you see the complexity of that. And then the memory, the 3 levels beyond that. So here are some questions that I have for you. As a result of seeing this first part, do you understand better how your child's 8 brain systems are working as they learn? And then the follow-up question is, how will this information be helpful when having a conversation with your teachers and your students? Are you clearer on what the 8 systems look like when they function well? And remember, no one has all 8 functioning at a high level. So be gracious with your children when you notice they're challenged. And then the third question, can you see the importance of addressing these things while they are young so that they don't negatively impact your child's career path? Because remember, you do want them to grow up and leave home. That's a goal. These are the resources that I mentioned to you. There is a website, allkindsofminds.org, and I will tell you right now, they've changed it over the years. It's a lot of information there, a lot. But they even talk about young people at community college levels and how learning shows up for them. 2 of the books, the first one is A Mind at a Time. And I think most of his work began there and just took off to other things. There's The Myth of Laziness. If reading is problematic for you parents, I know A Mind at a Time is also on an audiobook. You can get these at a library. I will also encourage you to buy at least A Mind at a Time. Buy it and have it at home and use it as a reference book because, like I said, you only get one brain. This is it. This is the one that you will take throughout your life. And you can use this as a reference book when going back and forth with whatever is going on with your children, to be able to open it up and look and see, this is what's going on. I can find out more about it and have conversations with your teachers. So with that, I want to turn it back to Mr. Brown. And thank you again for this invitation.
What you see before you is a culmination of 2.5 years of work. But moreover, it was 86 years of blood, sweat, and tears put forth by men and women who comprise the Tuskegee experiment. Let history show that in the course of human endeavor, that never have so many owed so much to so few.
My first reaction was it looked a lot better than I did it in class. It took a lot, and it's just, I'm proud to see that it's up there, and I'm glad everyone else can see it too. I think it's good that the Tuskegee Airmen get their word out and their faces out because they helped this world, and I'm glad that I was able to help them represent it. I've seen everyone do their painting in class. I've seen like their entire process through it, and now looking at it inside the airport, it's like, wow, they did that. That's amazing.
My name is Lori Lane, and this is my father, Earl Roscoe Lane. He was with the 332nd of the Tuskegee Airmen. I think they did a fantastic job in doing it. I know when I was speaking to a group of them, they said they did a lot of research on it, but they were so open to listening and to learning more so that we have more young people that are able to display their talent, learn, and it's one, as a teacher, I know it's one of the greatest ways for students to learn, and for this will stay with them for the rest of their lives.
You go to the website, you type in the access code, and you're in. Your kids' pictures are there, and you could easily, I have kids at 2 different schools, you can easily switch from school to school and keep up on top of it.
Everything's right there. Like, everybody always has their phone with them, so you can easily access it to your phone.
It's a relief for me knowing that my child has the best chance that they can, knowing every day they wake up, they can go to school and, take advantage of the day.
To be focused on academics to me, it means preserving myself, applying myself, and holding myself accountable for my goals. To excel and get to the finish line, I apply myself to take college credit plus classes, running for class president, and maintaining a great GPA for valedictorian.
4.06 GPA.
Being focused on academics really means self-discipline to me. But you being able to wake up every morning and prioritize the things that are important to you and what really matter to you is really what academic excellence looks like. I think over my 4 years, the things that I did to get to that finish line was definitely planning myself out.
It is important to stay focused because seeing an end goal can make you be proud of yourself and your achievements that you have overcome.
This is much of a celebration for each of you.
CMSD offered me just about everything. I think that's what makes a good scholar, is being exposed to a bunch of different environments.
Listen, I want to say thank you, Dr. Brown. Listen, that was amazing. First of all, thank you for all of that information and all that good information. That was enlightening, first of all. Now, one thing that you mentioned that really stood out, that kind of made me start thinking, was understanding our children's attention and energy patterns. Now, what's one small thing parents can do this week to strengthen the focus at home?
You said small thing. It's not small, because I know there will be wrestling matches and kicking and screaming, but going to bed and getting enough rest.
Okay.
That means shutting down everything electronic, TVs, charge your phone somewhere else, take off the Apple Watch, all the electronics, all the little things that have so many exciting things going on, because your brain needs to rest.
Okay.
It's not just your body, your brain needs to rest. All of that that's going on is interfering with tomorrow.
Got you. Okay. That's important. Okay. So here's another one I got for you. And for families who may see their child struggle with memory or comprehension, what's one encouraging first step they can take to begin improving that area?
For memory, it is really a matter of doing the work over and over. Just practicing small, and so it varies child and age grade, what's being called, what they're being called to do. Mm-hmm. But just practicing, the repetition is what makes a difference. It truly does. And it's one of those things where I said, you got to grind it out. You got to grind it out. Just repeating and repeating and repeating.
Okay. No problem at all. I just thank you. Oh, wait, she said, wait a minute. There's something else.
There is something else that I've learned, the effects of food on the brain. Now, people are really not going to like this because I didn't like it, but potatoes are shown to have an ill effect on the brain. They've been linked to dementia in older people, but also memory gaps in people that are not that old. I love potato chips. I love French fries. Who does not? I don't know those people. So it's very important to begin to understand the effect of food on the brain.
Now, is that white potatoes or what about sweet potatoes?
Potato.
Oh my goodness, Dr. Brown.
I know. So here's a workaround. Maybe save your potatoes until Friday and enjoy them Friday, maybe Saturday. And hopefully when you come back to school on Monday, you'll be okay. But if you think of things, and that will be research that a parent would do to see what's going on in our food or in our kitchen, or, what your children are eating when they're out on the street, those hot fries.
Oh, yeah, I know that.
Whatever that is.
Conversation.
But there are things that we put in our bodies that are not good for our brain. That's a whole different conversation.
That is.
But it does affect memory.
Okay.
Yeah, I know, potato chips.
Oh my God, not my potato chips, Dr.
I
Brown.
know, and French fries.
All right, well, I'm gonna let you. I'm duly noted. I guess we'll have to just live with that. Listen, a big thank you again to Dr. Portia Brown for guiding us through the first 4 layers of the learning brain. Now, families, remember, each child learns differently, and understanding these differences can help you respond with patience and purpose. Now, be sure to join us for part 2, where Dr. Brown will unpack the next 4 brain systems. We're going to be talking about motor, spatial, sequential, and social learning. Now, again, to access any additional resources and handouts from this episode, you can visit our website at clevelandmetroschools.org/Parent University. Again, we are a place where families grow and scholars soar. Let's keep standing tall and build brighter futures together. We'll see you next time.